All right. We all set, Adam? Okay. All right, perfect. So I'll get this kicked off and then I'll turn it over to the chairman, Rick Russman. But my name's Glenn Koppelman. I'm the Select Board's representative to the Energy Committee, which has been renamed. It was originally the Solar Committee because it was focused on efforts with regard to solar, and we've got that underway now, so which Rick will go through in just a moment. And so we were thinking about thank you, Adam. Thinking about what other things the committee could work on to help save money for residents and businesses here in town, and the idea of community power came up, and so we thought that it would be an appropriate time to change the name of the committee to the Energy Committee. So we've done that, and I think that's it. Maybe we should go around. You want to go around the room first, Rick, for folks to introduce themselves? Just make sure to turn your mics on when you do. Dan?
Dan Doyle, Vice Chairman, Energy Committee, I guess.
Dan Brown.
Don't hold it.
Leave it on the table.
Yeah.
Close to you, though.
It'll garble it if it's too close. I know he shouldn't.
Yeah, he was a bad boy. He shouldn't have done that.
Dan Brown, resident of Kingston.
Kathy Radford, Kingston.
Dana Akers, Kingston resident.
Henry Herndon, guest from Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire.
Mark Leonard, Kingston resident.
Russman, I'm the chair of the Energy Committee, and thank you all for coming tonight. A few of our members could not make it. 3 of them actually could not be here. But because it's recorded, they can watch it later and get caught up with things. Just a quick review of the status of the landfill solar project. Right now, Revision is doing an analysis basically as to what the cost effectiveness is, and is it a viable option for us to go forward with a fairly large solar array. A lot of it is dictated by the contour of the landfill because they can't have it on too much of a slope, and so they could have up to 5 megawatts, but it looks like it won't be that large because it just physically can't be done as far as the contours. So, and then there also the good part about it, we are now in the queue with Unitil for a connection, and the good thing is that there's a connection right across the street so that they could plug in right across the street to the grid and sell the electricity. So hopefully in several months, maybe in time for next town meeting, they'll have some proposal, and we'll be talking about that and visiting that and looking at that in detail and decide whether it's good for the town or not, and go from there. So without further ado, Henry's been kind enough to come down here from Concord to present tonight, and so I'll turn it over to him, and we'll go from there, and just try to everybody keep their voices up when they have questions. And would you like to make the presentation first and then hold the questions till the end, maybe?
Sure.
Okay. All right, let's do that, and so we won't interrupt your flow, and take it away.
Very good. Thank you for inviting me out. My name's Henry Herndon. I am an employee of Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire. We're a nonprofit here in the state that was created by New Hampshire cities and towns to implement this new community power law, which moved forward a few legislative sessions ago. And these programs are an opportunity for cities and towns to have a little more local control over their electricity portfolios, lower rates, create more options for residents and businesses. So I'll talk a little bit about what that means in more detail and what our organization does. This photo we have on the cover slide here is a photo of the coalition's annual membership meeting. So we're a nonprofit and we're member-based. Our members are New Hampshire cities, towns, and counties. And really, I'm here to extend an invitation to the town of Kingston to join the other 60-odd member cities and towns as a member. The members get together once a year and they elect from among them our board of directors. So we're governed by our member cities and towns and their elected folks on our board. So our board is made up of people from select boards and city councils and things like that. So very much an organization based in public interest. With that, I'll talk about a little more about the coalition and about how community power works. So here we just have a map of our membership statewide, and it's sort of color coded here, but the first two categories, the green and the blue, those towns all have community power up and running. They've gone through a town meeting, they've launched a program, their residents and businesses have new energy choices and lower electric supply rates and the like. And the ones in orange and red are sort of in process to bring their programs online soon. So it's 2 county members and 57 city and town members that represent more than 30% of the state's population participate in our organization as members. And that represents about 120,000 electric customers that we're currently providing electricity to. Those customers have enjoyed over $9 million in savings in just the first year of participating in these programs. The first programs launched in April of last year. So it's considerable scale and buying size. So it's a good buying group. And again, our services are available to any city or town that would choose to join. I mentioned our board, and I'll get into the what is community power, but just briefly on governance. So this is on the left, we see our board of directors. Again, these are folks from our member towns, city councils, select boards. Many of them have expertise in the power sector. They've had a professional career, either in policy or working for the utility, things of that nature. Others are just folks from committees such as this one, but a lot of really engaged people who sit on the board and make sure that our organization is serving the interests of their communities. So we sort of compare our community governance with expert operations. We have a professional staff led by our CEO, Brian Callinan. He was a former vice president at New Hampshire Electric Co-op, which is another utility company here, a nonprofit utility here in the state, before coming over to be our CEO. And then we have a number of service providers in addition to our staff to do the operations of managing a wholesale power portfolio, customer service, legal, accounting, banking, etc. Okay, so what is community power? There was legislation, bipartisan legislation, that moved forward in 2019 and 2021, updated RSA 53E. So that's the New Hampshire law that authorizes cities or towns to do community power. And what that means is a town can bulk purchase electricity in the market on behalf of all of their electric accounts, all of the residents and businesses in town. So you get an economy of scale and you get buying power. Your utility company, Unitil, they're going to keep owning the grid. They're going to deliver the power to the customer. They're going to own the meters. They're going to send the customer the bill. The only thing that changes is where that electricity is coming from and who's responsible for buying the actual power from the generators or suppliers. And then from a customer perspective, there's opportunities for lower rates, clean energy choices for customers who are interested in that, and other potential programs down the line. So these programs are entirely voluntary. No customer has to participate, and they could opt out at any time, but it is a default electricity supply, meaning any customer who takes no action, who already gets their power from Unitil, upon launch of the program, they would be automatically enrolled if they do not take any action. Also important to note, there's no taxpayer monies associated with funding these programs. They are all funded through customers' electric bills and payments customers make on their electric bill. So what does that look like? Here's just an example of a Unitil electric bill, and there's two sides to this. On the left side is the electric service or delivery service. So let's see if I have a mouse. Oh, I can't see the mouse, but anyway, that's Unitil's poles and wires charges, essentially. That will all remain totally unchanged. On the right side, you can see electric supplier service, and that's the line item that would be affected by this program. And you can see this is an Exeter Community Power bill. If and when Kingston Community Power were to launch, what would change for a customer would be what says Unitil Energy Supply would change to say Kingston Community Power. at the lower rate upon launch. There's a notification process, so if and when the program were to launch, at least 30 days before that, all customers in town would receive a letter in the mail. It would say, "Welcome to Kingston Community Power. Here are the rates. Here's the website. Here's all the information you would need to know." And it would provide that for the customer. A good resource for you all would be communitypowernh.gov. That's our website where customers can enroll in the program or opt out of the program or choose 100% clean energy option. And there's other details that are included in that notice and on the website. This is just showing the rates at present, and these are actually going to change on August 1st. And Eversource has announced an increase in its rates. So right here we see Eversource charges 8.285 cents a kilowatt hour. That's going to go up to 10.5 cents starting August 1. Community power rates are also going to adjust on August 1. We have not set those yet, but we're going to announce them next week. And stay tuned. We're excited that again, this isn't set yet, but all signs indicate there'll be good savings relative to the Eversource rate. So beyond the sort of the basic option, you can see Granite Basic, that's the lowest cost community power option. It's cheaper than Eversource right now, 8.1 cents. And again, these rates new rates will be announced come August 1. But any customer, if they wanted to, could choose to invest more in renewable power and choose one of those clean energy options. Hello. Thanks for joining us.
Henry, I know that you've got Eversource up here as an example. Most of Kingston is actually on Unitil.
Yes, thank you. So that's an error in the slides. Unitil has I think a 10.5 cent rate right now. So savings in 10, right. We have our friend from Exeter Community Power joining.
This is Cliff Sinnott, and he's with Exeter, the Exeter Energy Group, and he was also the chair for many years of the Rockingham Planning Commission before
the executive director of Rockingham Planning Commission.
Yeah, executive director, I get it right, okay. So thank you for coming over, and so that's all right. We're doing good, and you'll be here to tell us about Exeter's experience in a little bit. So go ahead, Henry.
One thing I just meant to mention, and now that Cliff's here, I know this is a small map, but if you look down in the Seacoast area, Hampton Falls, Kensington, Exeter, Stratham, Portsmouth, Rye, Newmarket, Durham, those are all towns that have implemented community power, and then up to Barrington, Somersworth, Dover. So there's a good company in the Seacoast that is getting involved in this opportunity. There's rate offer. Again, I apologize for this. This has the Eversource rates, but there are commercial rates available to Unitil customers that change on a monthly basis and that provide savings to the Unitil commercial energy customers. And this is just the rates over time. So the red line, you can see the Community Power Coalition's rates consistently outperforming the blue lines, which are the 3 investor-owned utilities. Unitil typically having the highest rate. I think that highest blue line is Unitil. And again, we're heading into a new rate period starting August. Okay, so how does a city or town implement a program? There's sort of 3 steps. The first step would be for the town of Kingston, if it wanted to implement with our organization, you would join as a member by adopting our joint powers agreement. So that's sort of the corporate bylaws of our nonprofit. It describes our governance, our board of directors, and our membership. So that document would be adopted by your select board if you would choose to join us as a member. There's no cost to that, but it's a way to access the resources of the organization for planning purposes. So that's step 1. Step 2 would be have this committee take responsibility for developing an electric aggregation plan. Now that might sound like a task. It's actually quite straightforward at this point because so many communities have sort of paved the road and have created the templates. But we would work with you to customize a template electric aggregation plan or community power plan. And we would hold a couple of public hearings on that pursuant to the state law to collect public input before a town meeting vote. So town meeting approval is required to launch Kingston Community Power. After the town meeting approves it, it's back to the select board to enter into service agreements, the final contracts to launch the program, and then we could bring the program online on behalf of the community. So I'll sort of skip through this. We talked about some of the benefits, cost savings, collaborating with regional neighbors, and this is perhaps more of a take-home, but this is just a summary of that joint powers agreement. So this is a contract among and between all of the city and town members that create the organization, creates the nonprofit, includes our bylaws, and all of the details of how we function and operate. You know, we have a board of directors of up to 21. There are currently 20 individuals on that. An important detail here is the agreement provides liability shield and liability protections to the town of Kingston. So the liabilities of Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire are not the liabilities of Kingston, and you're firewalled from that. So there's protections there. And if you were to join, you would appoint, your select board would appoint a member representative and alternate who, if they wanted to, could serve on our committees. They would be expected to attend an annual meeting of the organization to represent your town, and otherwise just sort of be a liaison for communication. So that's the end of sort of the presentation topic, but glad Cliff's here and happy to have a discussion and answer any questions we may have.
We'll ask a few questions and then we'll have you tell us about what you think about Exeter. It sounds like there's lots of opportunity for public input, and ultimately, even though the Board of Selectmen may sign something, we're still going to have to go to kind of town meeting warrant article, and the people are going to have to vote for it anyway if they want to do that.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So there's that joint powers agreement step. That's really there's no commitment there. That's just sort of access resources to get on the path. But there will be the town meeting tells your select board, we're approving you to do this, and then the select board has to enter into a contract after town meeting. So the real commitment point comes after town meeting at the select board level.
And so once this is up and running, if anybody that doesn't want to be in it, they don't have to be in it.
That's
They
right.
can opt out.
Anyone can go buy power from Unitil or from any other provider at any time, no penalty, no nothing.
Okay, Glenn, you had,
Most people won't know where to go. It says that.
Yeah, we.
Is it, they're used to their, like the company? Only do research where else to go.
It's a good point, and maybe a couple of thoughts. So yeah, most people aren't super familiar, sophisticated shoppers of electricity. Some are, some aren't. Some people do shop for power, and they end up getting in a program with a teaser rate, and their rate gets turned up over time. We've seen a lot of that through this. So in a sense, community power can add a layer of consumer protection there. But you're right, a lot of people aren't aware, so we do a mailing to every single electric customer. They all get that letter. It says, come to our public information session. We'll have another one of these public information sessions that's listed in that letter. That gets good turnout. On the Unitil bill, it will say our phone number and website. So that's another avenue. And then we do what we can, public engagement campaigns, public information sessions, working with a committee like this to build a list of all of your media networks, local listservs, church group, whatever it might be, to try to make sure we're getting the word out as best we can.
go ahead, Mark.
Let me understand what I think I heard you say was that after a town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, folks, if please use the mics and please use your outside voices, because otherwise we're not going to hear what we're saying, and the folks who are listening on TV or who visit the recording afterwards won't hear us. So,
Okay, hopefully everybody can hear me. Nod head, yes, yes. Speak up, more? Wow. Okay, every resident will be informed about this program. And if I understood you correctly, that the rates will be assigned how often?
So right now, the Unitil rates change every 6 months.
Yes, they
on
do.
the supply side.
Yep.
And currently, our approach, our practice has been to also adjust our rate on that 6-month cycle in an effort to maintain the discount to the Unitil rate. So as Unitil's rate does this, we can sort of adjust our rates accordingly.
Okay, now, unless I misread here, it says that at any point in time, if a resident decides to opt out, all he has to do is, after he pays the last monthly bill, he can remove himself or herself, and then they go back on the standard Unitil program. Is that right?
Correct.
Simple as that.
No, every month, any month you can do it.
Okay.
No contract.
I think part of this is that, I think most of the people have a feeling this sounds like it's too good to be true. And that somehow there must be some kind of a catch-22 here that there isn't. So I guess that's what, if you can address that and how, and put it this way, has any town that has put it to a vote, has any town rejected it?
Not that I'm aware of, and more importantly, has any town that has joined it then subsequently decided to leave, and I don't think anyone has either, as far as I know.
I hate to do this, but we're not hearing what we're talking about.
Okay, I can make it a little closer, Glenn, sorry.
Well,
I don't think
unfortunately,
these help us, they just help folks online.
with these types of things, unfortunately, if you hold it up to your mouth, it'll be garbled. So it supposedly works best when it's on the table.
Okay.
And that type of thing. So.
I mean, I sort of think I can hear myself in a microphone, is that right? Is there a microphone? Or is there
Well, there is
speaker?
this is the microphone
Is there
here, but there's not a microphone in the building in that respect. Now, so I just want to make sure everybody else has an opportunity to ask a question. We'll come back to you. Glenn, you said you had a question or two you can ask.
I do. I've got two questions actually right off the bat. One is if the town were to sign up for this, participate, does the town also have the opportunity to participate?
It does. So
And so the town of Kingston for the last few years, and still is, under an aggregation program run by the Regional Planning Commission. And so,
I mean, it's customer choice rules, so it's whatever the town decides it wants to do with its accounts. If it wants to stay with the Rockingham aggregation group, it could stay with that if they have a better price there. If the Kingston Community Power has a better price, they could move those accounts over there. It's really up to the town.
okay. And the other question I had is, there are some folks in town who have solar power generation on their homes and businesses, and they're under a net metering program. And so, again, how does this play with that, or does it not play with that?
Right. So it should play with that. Those customers should be able to participate like anybody else in net meter to us, and we credit them for that power. There's technical issues with utilities right now where we're not able to, from a technical standpoint, because of some challenges on the regulatory utility side, we're not able to credit those customers for their extra power. That will get resolved. There's a regulatory proceeding, but for now, solar customers, net meter customers, they stay with Unitil. Nothing is affected for them.
Okay, thanks.
And on that, important note is that they do not get automatically opted into this program.
Solar generators don't get automatically opted in?
No.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. So, and before we ask another question, because you might bring up some other stuff, Cliff, could you talk to us a little bit about Exeter's experience and so on?
be happy to. It's been nothing but positive, and I think I hear what you're saying. It's sort of like too good to be true. Well, there's been really no downside to it from our perspective. Every 6-month rate change has always been lower than the Unitil default, and I think our current objective is to try to get people interested in getting increased amount of renewable content, but we didn't build that into our system. They're defaulted into the default rate, and that has always been less expensive than Unitil by a large margin.
Go ahead.
What percentage of Exeter's population, residents, have participated, if you have that?
Boy, I think it's something like 96% because of the automatic opt-in. Right. That's the way this works.
Automatic.
It's
Yours, Exeter, is an
automatic.
automatic.
They all
Everybody's is.
Yep.
So in other words, if I, for example, don't want to participate and I wish to stay with Unitil,
Right.
I have to opt out.
Right. And that's why
Okay.
we spent a lot of effort in our initiation of this program communicating with people to make sure they understood this is the way it worked and that they had multiple opportunities to opt out. And even if they missed the initial opt out, any month after that, out. But part of the, Henry mentioned a communication that goes out. It's a legal requirement. It's a communication that goes out to residents or customers before the turnover date, explaining what's going on and explaining how they opt out and giving them options, both telephone, internet, online to opt out. And this is a sample of it.
Would it not be fair to say, Cliff, that the reason this works the way it does is because you guys don't have shareholders that you have to make a profit to give dividends to the shareholders? And so it's unlike Unitil, that they've got to pay their shareholders a dividend each quarter. You don't have to do that, so it's a substantial savings. Is that fair to say?
It's more complicated than that.
I'm sure it's
and
more complicated,
I
but-
think Henry can address that better than I can. But there's a lot of sophistication that goes on in pricing and contracting for energy, and that's all I know about it.
Yeah, I'd say there is a lot of value in having nonprofit community governance. The people on the board, all they want to do is, get the best deal for their towns. So that plays a role. On the sort of technical side, and maybe I'll just jump to here. So we have a number of service providers. We have a risk management committee, and we have a firm, Ascend Analytics, that advises on energy portfolio risk management. So one of the main reasons we get the savings is because we're not regulated the way Unitil is. Unitil just buys power twice a year, 6-month block of power at a fixed time that's regulated. And that's a fairly simple and unsophisticated way to buy power. We are actively managing a portfolio of power resources and power contracts, and our risk management committee, is sort of watching the market week to week, month to month, buying and layering in different contracts for power at opportune times. So that active portfolio management is a key aspect of the savings.
Do you buy through the IPS?
ISO, yes.
ISO, you
That's
do?
right, we do.
Every month?
Yeah, on an ongoing basis, yeah. So we are not a market participant. We're not registered in the ISO, but our Calpine here on the right-hand side, they're our very close vendor partner, and they are our market participant that is registered in the wholesale power market.
I have a question. Right now, I'm on time of use metering, so that from like 8 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning, and on every weekend and on the holidays, my rate is like really, really cheap. And then of course, from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 o'clock at night, it's really, really expensive. How does that work, or doesn't it, when you're in this particular program?
So a lot of the people who put this together are very keen on energy innovation and understanding the potential of, people with solar on their roofs, people with batteries in their homes, people who have time of use rates, people who have electric vehicles, and encouraging more of that in a smart way. So time of use rates is very much something we're motivated to expand for customers who are interested, so you can take advantage of those lower cost off-peak times. So we have a director, a staff member, a director of energy programs and projects who is working on developing more innovative rates, innovative energy programs, innovative energy projects. These things will take time, but it's definitely a longer term value, both on individual customer time-based rates, but also developing local energy projects in the communities for those communities that would like to do that.
Okay, so I know when I signed up with Unitil, I had to sign up for at least a year. That was a requirement, and I assume that after the 1 year, I probably could opt out of it if I wanted to. But so you see that probably coming into play in the future, is what you're saying, I guess.
Yeah, right now we do not have any time-based rates. We aren't able to do that based on our integration with the utility systems. But Unitil is a little further along than a utility like Eversource, and they have their meters are a little bit smarter and more modern. So there are potentially opportunities in the next couple of years to partner with Unitil on things like time-based rates.
Okay. All right. Cliff, is there more that you wanted to talk about Exeter?
Sure. I guess what I would say is that, as I was sort of alluding to, I think our biggest challenge was a concern that people knew this was happening before it happened.
Cliff, would you just do me a favor and move that right close to you? Close to you. Thank you.
As I was saying before, our concern as a committee was to make sure that people were fully informed about this, knew what was happening, when it was happening, had an opportunity to respond and comment and give us feedback. And we kept, expecting more involvement and interest in the community, and there wasn't a heck of a lot. And we finally concluded that most people had looked at it and concluded themselves that there was nothing wrong here and nothing to be concerned about, so that there wasn't a great response other than go for it. This is a good thing, and it has turned out to be a very good thing. As I said before, every new rate period that we've experienced has the Unitil rates, or the community power rates, have been lower than the Unitil comparable rates. And in fact, at the current status in Exeter, you could opt to have 50% renewable power source in your in what you choose with CPC&H, and it would still be cheaper than Unitil's default rate of 24% renewable. So, and that's what we were after. That was partly what we were after, both rate relief and the opportunity for residents who wanted to choose different mixes of energy sources.
Let me ask you this. Do you remember how, when it went to ballot at the town level, how much it passed by? Do you have any sense of that?
It was one of the largest margins. I think it was something like 78%, but don't quote me on that. I don't remember for sure. But
substantial.
It was very substantial.
Well, more than.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And the dropout rate has been almost not discernible?
It's not something we have tracked. Our committee has tracked. It's possible that CPC&H has that information, but I think it's kept pretty constant from what I know.
It's 4% at the highest, I would say.
4%?
Have opted out.
That maybe have opted out?
That have chose to leave, yeah.
Okay. So obviously people are liking it, and they're staying in it.
One thing that happens is that people get flyers in the mail from other aggregators that say, that have a teaser rate of less than you're paying now, and so that looks attractive. And some people, a small margin of people, because most people honestly don't pay any attention to this at all, But those who look at the flyer and it looks more attractive than their current rate, they may opt out, but they'll probably end up coming back in at some point. One of the other things that I think that we have tried to explain over and over to people is there's a concern that because we're going to CPC&H, we're no longer going to have Unitil as our utility provider. That's not true. Unitil is there to distribute the power and to maintain the infrastructure of the grid. And they continue to do that. We're still, all of us are still Unitil customers, at least for the time being. They still do the billing, so we still get our Unitil bill. The difference is that on the second part of the bill where it describes where the energy supply comes from, you'll see a different indicator there than Unitil. It'll be CPC&H or Exeter Power. I think in our case it's Exeter Power. But the electric service and delivery aspect, which is at least half the bill, that's still Unitil.
So if a tree comes down on the wires, a car hits the pole and snaps the pole off, Unitil's still going to fix that.
Right.
Okay. Other questions? Yes, go ahead.
My question is, what about smart meters? Do we have to have a smart meter? to switch over?
You don't. You don't have to have one. I think Unitil's meters are maybe technically smart meters, but you don't have
I
to.
don't know.
I'm not a meter expert, but
I'll tell you, I want nothing to do with smart meters.
You might have one.
Also,
I think that-
once it did opt out, why? What was their reasons for dropping out?
You know, we didn't ask that question. We just,
Why not?
because we had no way of knowing each individual who was dropping out. We just know it as an aggregate, you know, the number of customers that are in, the number of customers that are out.
How many?
I will tell you that my guess is that the majority of ones that opted out because they had solar panels and they knew that they couldn't take advantage of their net meter income, essentially, if they were signed up.
They paid for any overage.
Right. So for most solar customers, it doesn't, solar panel customers, it doesn't make sense to do this until, as Henry was saying, until the information is provided by the utilities that allows CPC&H to properly credit that.
And that's what we found. I have them on my office over in Exeter, and I've put
school district, as I purchase power, I don't like the thought that it's an automatic opt-in for government agencies and businesses.
Yes, I'll just try to clarify this a little bit. It is, so it's the new default right now. Unitil is the default, and this is would be the new default. And it is for customers who are on Unitil power. They'll receive the notice, and if they take no action 30 days later, they will be automatically enrolled into this new program. So one way to think of it
But
is,
how do you know if they get notification though? That's another thing. I mean, a simple letter isn't proper notification in my opinion. You know, that letter could be sent to a tenant that's renting that building or home, and the owner of that property is not getting notification that's paying for the energy.
so we receive a customer list from Unitil. They give us all their electric accounts, and they sort of which ones net metered, which ones are buying power from another third party. We do not enroll those two groups, but then the remainder, they're the default customer. And
So Unitil's giving my private information to you then?
they do.
Oh,
And this is
I don't know if I like that either.
the legislative process and the regulatory process.
Very interesting.
We do have data security and privacy policy, and that's available on our website if you're interested in that.
We'll provide obviously anything. Thank you.
The thing is, you're asking people in this community that have to physically call them and opt out of the program, which I'm not a fan of. You know, people are very settled and happy with what they have. They shouldn't have to be bothered and take extra steps to opt out of your program. That's what I don't like about it. If there was an opt-in choice, that's a different situation.
And wouldn't you, I mean, if the opportunity is to actually have a lower rate,
But it's about rights, though.
but right now you have to do that anyway, you're stuck with Unitil.
No, I'm not stuck with Unitil, but they're my default, and I know that when I signed up for Unitil at the time. I feel like they're going behind our backs and saying, "Ah, we're changing your power," and the only notification they're giving is a letter to that address. I don't think they're doing their due diligence to notify the people that they're changing who the supplier is of the power.
Well, there would be 2 public hearings that would be noticed, and it'd also be.
But you know as well as I do, there's a large percent of people in the community that don't listen to these public hearings, that don't, you know, they're hermits for the most part. They live in their home and they just pay their bills and they move on with life. that they don't want to be in a political atmosphere or anything like
And they
that.
would see it on the ballot when they went to vote. But
Now,
still,
now, let me ask you this, how many people vote in this community? It's under half.
It's less than that. I'm not
So,
voting to
so
you,
once
that's
again,
not
there's not, I don't think they're doing their due diligence to notify the customers with a simple letter at that point.
go ahead, Nick.
I mean, I don't have an issue with this program. I think it's a great issue. I think it's great to have choices. I just don't like the automatic opt-in program.
I wanted to address that because we felt the same way, honestly. There's something that feels a little icky about that because you're doing this.
Would it be possible to have the default be whichever's cheaper, Unitil or your power? Presuming you're very confident that your power is going to remain cheaper, but things change in the future. And if you set it up that way, nothing lost to you if you think you're always going to be cheaper, but it would make everybody very confident that they're getting the best deal.
I don't think that can be done just from like a contracting and, you know, I don't think it can't work that way. You can't just automatically.
It could.
Well, you couldn't get anyone to sell you power if they thought your buying block would disappear and not actually be there to buy the power.
Well, I'm not saying like all the competitors, but right now, like just with Unitil, say, you know, the base utility, like, and so if for some reason your deal got more expensive, then people would automatically default back to Unitil. It would give everybody confidence that the deals. I don't think anything would change, but
the way this works is the town has to decide what its default is officially, and to take those steps requires decision making, at least at the Board of Selectmen, if not maybe at town meeting. I'm not sure about that. And therefore, they would have to be looking into the future at least a few months, trying to predict who's going to be the low-cost provider.
Okay.
And I don't want anything to do with that because, you know, that's a science or an art. I'm not sure, but it's not something.
But I thought you were confident that you're always going to be less expensive than Unitil.
I don't think that's written in stone, but it's likely to always be the case.
It's not a guarantee of 100% all the time being cheaper than Unitil. So far, we've never been more expensive than Unitil, and it's always been pretty considerable, and we have a certain advantage over them, but it is not a promise that 100% that will always be.
When we set ours up, and I think a lot of communities have done this, when we set the criteria for deciding whether to do it or not do it, one of the criteria was the rate had to be cheaper than Unitil's at the time.
I'm curious, Cliff, well, I have two questions. One is, what, if any, actual dollar costs are there to the town to make this work? Maybe we can answer that one first, and then I'll ask you the second one.
It's not to say there are no costs, but by law, the law that the RSA 53B, the Mail Exchange, says that the cost of community power, which would include our joining CPC and H and their costs associated with our program, cannot be passed along to anybody but community power customers. So it's not, so anybody who opted out, for example, would not incur any of those costs. The costs that do get incurred are built into the rate, so they're already accounted for.
Okay, all right.
There's one exception to that, and that's costs incidental to startup. So any staff, you want to have an attorney review contracts, that might be a cost. The time of the committee and the select board. I think Exeter, well, no, actually we covered, Exeter put an insert in its water sewer bill to the notice about community power, and we actually covered that and removed that cost out of the rate. So that was on the rate side, but staff time and meetings and things like that.
No, we had no costs.
Oh, okay.
So where did the incidental costs, who's paying for those? The customer or?
That would, like if the town hired an attorney or had their attorney review a contract, that would be an incidental cost that the town.
Oh, okay, I got you, okay.
So these are generally very marginal, but they are costs.
I think the storm followed you, Henry. It's, so, I, I had, Cliff, I had one other question for Cliff. Having gone through the process, is there anything that the town or the committee would have done differently? Sort of a lessons learned.
As I said in the beginning, we kind of beat our heads against the wall, trying to get people to pay attention to community power. And I guess the hidden message there, not so hidden, was we're okay with it. At least, we did all sorts of things. Like every town vote, every time there was a town election of any sort, we had a table with handouts and people there answering questions. And most people would come by and say, oh yeah, I read about that, I'm good with it. And then there were a few people who would, have very pointed questions, not unlike yours. Why is this, what gives you the right to make these changes? And I think in retrospect, I think we should have maybe done a little bit more to reach out about that particular question. Maybe focus more on we had FAQs, and the FAQs were very clear that this was going to happen, sort of explained why. But maybe we didn't spend enough time on that, but it was really just a handful of people that kind of were irked by that. Most people were looking at the bottom line and said, well, as long as I'm not committed to this, I can opt out anytime. I'll take the better rate for as long as I can. And that's what they were fine. So, I think in some ways what I'm saying is we spent almost too much effort on outreach because we seem to be that interested. But maybe it wasn't targeted at quite the right questions.
Is that defined by the RSA, Cliff? That it has to be an aggregation committee specifically?
Yeah, and it's like that one part of the law has funny language. I think it says the town may appoint an electric aggregation committee, and then a little later it says the committee shall prepare a plan. That's too much detail right now, but the point being, oftentimes, and what Cliff's saying, your select board could either say, the energy committee, thou art the electric aggregation committee, now you should have the same people, or you could say, you know what, you guys have your plates full, and maybe we want a different committee, you could create a separate. It could either be one and the same or a different committee.
In our case, it was a different committee, but some of the energy committee members were on.
They don't run power plants or make electricity. All they do is buy electricity.
And really, so our organization, we're indifferent to what the town wants to do. One town might want to save as much money as possible. Another town might want to develop a local solar field because that's their motivation. And we will work to facilitate and empower both those towns to achieve those goals. We don't have any policy objective for the town of Kingston. It's what does the town of Kingston want? We're your service provider. We're just here to, meet whatever your objectives. We don't try to push an agenda on them. I'm not really in the solar business. No, I really, it's community power is sort of, yeah, and I'm not sure I'm following.
They're an aggregator of, they buy power from different sources, some renewable, some not, and then make them available as the default rate to whoever is their customer. So they don't care necessarily where the power comes from. Well, same with Unitil. We don't know where exactly where Unitil's power is coming from. They purchase it from different sources.
Pushes it off onto the next one, I'm sorry.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Is there?
So when you're purchasing power, you're just purchasing power from the Northeast grid, or are you?
ISO, we buy power from the ISO market, which that means that's the organization that coordinates the 6 New England states power grid. So we buy power in that marketplace that are from within the 6 New England states.
Okay.
I mean, technically there's an interconnection in Canada into New York, so there's perhaps some like on market level,
Well, I mean, like I've purchased a lot of power, obviously, for the school district, and our last contracts, I was buying power from Seattle, Washington, you know, at an excellent rate. But if you're bound geographically to the northeast area, how do you know you're getting the best rates?
well, that's probably more of a marketing thing on what you're buying than, I mean, whoever's selling you that power is participating in the New England market. They may also be participating in Seattle, or they may be branding, you know, Pacific Northwest Renewable or something like that.
Sure.
But anyone who's selling power to customers here in New England is participating in the ISO.
Right, because right now we're purchasing through Calpine right now, so.
And they're active in a number of markets.
Right.
Part of what they're doing is definitely participating in this market.
Right.
Yeah, and I have to tell you that I went in and I checked in the video room when we had the power, when we lost the power. We might have also lost the feed out. So hopefully the presentation part of it made it. I think some of this discussion might not be captured on the recording, but it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about that. So. And if I put together a quick sign-up sheet. I'd like to capture names of anyone who has attended. If you can please sign that, that would be great.
So guys, more people.
Well, you know, it's like anything else. Most of these meetings, it's you know, you make the notice, you put the notice out there, and we did. We made the public notice. Of course, it means that folks have to be looking for, you know, the meeting notice, and but it's very hard to get folks to come to meetings and to participate on boards and committees. It's very hard. I mean, well, that's true. I mean, you know, we talked about the percentage of voters that we have. I mean, that's a perfect example of, I mean, during our deliberative sessions, which it's pathetic. It really is, and I don't know what the answer is, but. All right, so Rick, are you calling us adjourned? At 8:25? All right, thank you all for coming out, appreciate it. And Henry, thank you, and Cliff, thank you.